This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
What is good? Happy Monday. 19 games. That is all that stands between the Leafs and Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs against the Tampa Bay Lightning, presented by PointsBet Canada. It's the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with you. Rosie, I won't lie. I'm having a case of the Mondays right now. I'm going nuts.
Yeah. Well, when the Leafs like to drop them heaters to bottom feeders, once again, we tend to have those Monday feelings on these shows, don't we?
Buddy, that was a Cleveland steamer on Saturday against the Vancouver Canucks, and we'll get to that game. But a lot to discuss. The trade deadline recap. We did a bit of a recap ourselves on social media. We got the game against Vancouver, the 5-game roadies done tomorrow against the New Jersey Devils, the O'Reilly injury. There's a lot to cover, but first and foremost, we were texting back and forth over the weekend. You had a speaking engagement. Like, what does that even mean?
Oh, the Olds Grizzlies team had their wind-up banquet for the end of the year. So, one of the Sutter brothers came in and we sat there and had a little hot stove and whatnot, which ended up being pretty fun. Actually, it was a nice evening.
Were you better on that panel than you were on the panel for deadline day with Daily Faceoff?
Buddy, they're thinking of getting rid of you permanently to put me in the number 1 chair after that thing, I heard.
Yeah, so if you missed it, both of us were on the Daily Faceoff deadline show on Friday, and without question, the breakout star was Jay Rosehill. Number one, the reference, the iPod reference from back in the 2000s. He had to reference the fact that I like to call it that I'm in the number 1 chair, which I am, and the King Daddy Topper was you. So breaking down the Nick Ritchie, Brett Ritchie trade, he said, how about a wife swap? And that was like the funniest line of the day, man. I could not believe you said that, but it worked.
I thought it makes sense logistically when you're got a lot of shit to move and kids and families. Just do a straight across the table, 1 suitcase, easy does her. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I guess it's just you, but go back and watch that from Friday because, again, that was, I guess, tells you everything you need to know about deadline day specifically. Not much cooking, but we expected that. So before we dive into things, I'm going to make this a regular occurrence on the show since you fought in the NHL. Every time there's a fight for the Maple Leafs, we need you to break it down. So here's the latest. Back on Saturday, 6 foot, $1 billion. Tyler Myers, after this hit, he scraps Jake McCabe. What's your breakdown?
Yeah, I like Nylander kind of getting in there, and then McCabe just shows no pullback and just goes flying in there, which I love. And look, you don't have to go in there and die fighting a guy that's bigger than you, or if you don't like doing that, you just got to show up, get in there, chuck a guy around, spin around, and slip on a banana peel, down you go. That's all it takes. I mean, look at the crowd's fired up, everyone's jacked, the bench goes nuts, and Toronto Maple Leafs have been missing that for quite a while. It's surprising to see Johnny T get crushed like that a couple of different times too. I mean, his on-ice awareness and everything, usually he doesn't get caught like that. He got nailed twice that game, and boom, it was a big boy hit, man. And I just love to see McCabe come flying in there. That guy's 6'7", big boy. You can see how hard he's tossing him around, but it's just great to see for the Leafs fans. I mean, we have been lacking that for a long time. Any answer, any pushback, and man, there's nothing more devastating to your bench to suck the life out of it when someone gets crunched and everyone just looks at each other and doesn't do anything to stand up for your bud.
Yeah, I thought that was really cute. You mentioned it. Nylander strolls in there. He gave him a bit of the business, and he understood that he wasn't going to take that fight. Somebody would be behind him. I actually respected it. I won't lie.
Yeah, it was cool. Reminded early on in the season that happened, and Gio comes flying in and whatnot. It's good to see. It doesn't have to happen every single game, but when your captain gets absolutely blown up like that, it's nice to have a response. That's for sure.
And unsurprisingly, it had that playoff feel in that game, specifically the first period. It was like hit everybody in sight. I felt bad for the ushers in like section 321. Everybody was getting hit. And who started the hitting in that game? You saw it in that package. None other than Luke Schenn, man. I just love what he's bringing to the table so far here.
Yeah, I think everybody is, man. I mean, I was at that Flames game there earlier on this weekend. He was killing guys out there, putting guys right on their back. And then, I mean, none other than Milan Lucic kind of takes a run at him. Luke puts him on his ass. Then he looped around and took another full-out run at him. And Luke didn't just stand him up, put him on his ass again, which That's Milan Lucic we're talking about. So I think Luke is honestly banging harder than he was back when I played with him when he was in his young to mid 20s, and he's just still crushing guys out there. I think he's stayed in that league for a reason, because he can keep up, he can stay in position, and he's one of the few guys that can just put every guy on the league on their ass at will. And he seems like he's getting stronger, that old boy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. He's got that old man strength. He's not even old. And, the great thing I would bring up, too, to compliment the guy, I think the thing that's really improved that nobody gives him credit for is his mobility. Like, that's the one thing, my lasting memory when he was a Leaf early on. He really couldn't move. And I think he's never going to get that praise, but I think he's hopping around a bit, which is great to see. And obviously, mobility is the name of the game if you want to stick in this league. And Luke Schenn deserves a lot of credit for, modifying his game, evolving, whatever you want to call it, because he's found his place in the NHL again, which is great to see, and so great to see him on the Maple Leafs. Remember to subscribe, tap that like button, leave us a review wherever you're checking us out, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest on all things Toronto Maple Leafs. Rosie, can you see on your screen right there, we're 42 subscribers away at the Leafs Nation 401, at the Leafs Nation 401, our YouTube page, from 1K and 1,000. Can you believe this ride we're on right now?
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. We've been, getting the guests out there and putting out the product that I think people in this market are looking for. And yeah, we busted up to 1,000 there pretty quick. So be good if we, have all our content on there, and you can go there and look back at whatever we're doing. That's what it's all about, is those cut ups and those shorts, and get you the information that you need.
Exactly. Thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns, by the way, drop us a line in the chat down below here on YouTube, and we'll get to those a bit later on here on the show. But for now, let's get over the boards. You see how I said that with intensity, Rosie? It's Monday, man. I just can't speak on Mondays. Long weekend for yours truly, but I digress. Intensity was missing. Like, again, I'm not going to come on here and bitch and moan and complain about a loss to the Vancouver Canucks with 20 games remaining in the season, but I just want to see more. They were in that hockey game, and we've been talking about this vaunted power play for like a couple weeks now, and they shit the bed in the third period. They let two shorties in like 45 seconds there. What happened?
Yeah, no, that's definitely the story in the game. I mean, average game coming into the third period, first shift and a half there, they score to tie the game. Okay, now watch the Leafs start to roll here. I mean, they're going to show they're the better team. They got the right start to the third period, and just the life sucked right out of them with two shorthanded goals against in a matter of a minute and a half, some kind of like a franchise record. Like, that's unacceptable for those power play guys. I mean, you're out there with an extra man, yes, with the intention of scoring a goal. That's what you're thinking about. But if you're thinking so much on scoring a goal that just defense goes absolutely out the window, you don't think those PK guys are licking their lips and waiting for a hole to spring somebody and send them? And they did it twice and buried on both of them. And to me, that's the game right there. So it's happened before. It seems like they've kind of cleaned it up a little bit, maybe the last month or two, but it's not the first time in the season that the power play has just been given up offensive opportunities left, right, and center. And it needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about. And wherever the breakdowns happen, they need to understand how that happens. And I mean, you do that in the playoffs, see you later. It's hard enough to you're scratching and clawing for every goal out there. And if you're letting in shorties out there, good luck. You're not going to go far, and they need to fix it. And once again, this Leafs team has got just a plethora of losses against the teams that they should absolutely beat. And as alarming as that is, I honestly think it would be worse the other way around. If you can beat all the shitty teams and you just can't beat a good team, I mean, that kind of writing's on the wall for that season right there. But for whatever reason, we can beat the Bruins, we can beat the Lightning, we can beat X, Y, and Z, and we just continually lose. And I don't know if it's a mental thing or not, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt this week. They've had so many changes. They've had so much crazy shit going on with the deadline and moving players in. Then they go on the long road trip where guys are flying in with one suit and a toothbrush, and you can't have a proper practice. You can't get settled each other. And when you're in your home rink and your locker room and your own ice, and go to the video room and here's what we're doing for practice, and really actually engage, they haven't been able to do that. And they're not going to be able to do that till they get back from Jersey. But I kind of didn't expect it, but I was thinking, it makes sense if they're a little bit scattery here the next little while they go on this road trip and try to bring all these new guys into their lineup.
I love on the broadcast, they always like to throw up how Boston and Tampa do against these shit teams and how Toronto does against them. Like they do it every time. They did it again on Saturday. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Like they stuck with the Vancouver Canucks. That was a very Rick Tocchet game. You could tell early on what the strategy was for the Canucks. And I, quite frankly, I wonder why more teams don't try to do it against the Leafs. Play heavy against them. And I thought the Canucks, to a degree, had a lot of success. There was some pushback, which is great to see for the Maple Leafs perspective. But as you know, having played in this league, there's just some buildings, Rosie, you don't do well in. Toronto's dropped 6 in a row and 16 of the past 18 overall at Rogers Arena. Like it really, really is an alarming statistic when you think about it. It's like, might as well not even show up next time.
That is big numbers. Usually I don't take a lot of stock into it. I go, hey, like you're going back how many years? There's hardly anyone on the roster. So why would that be, related to this year and this game and this season? But when you rack them up that much, this core team has been together for a while. They obviously just don't do well when they go to Vancouver. You do the time change of 3 hours, then you're playing at 4 to appease the Leafs market, which I always laughed my ass off walking into that barn going, no wonder they hate the Leafs here. They make them watch their home team game on Saturday night at 4 p.m. because the people out east want to watch it at their normal 7 a time. It just shakes my head and go, wow, no wonder. That's not an easy way to gain fans out west, but struggling in that barn. It is what it is. I don't know, man. I don't have an answer for why they are not doing well against the lower grade teams and the Canucks in general. You could point to a couple of different things, but at the end of the day, it's up to those guys to overcome that. They're professionals. They're paid big money. They need to figure their shit out. And luckily we're not playing a bottom feeder team in the playoffs here, but I don't know. I mean, when they win games in a row, people are like, oh, who cares? They're not playing for nothing. They're, maybe home ice. We got, a 5-point lead on Tampa right now. So people kind of can slough off the wins pretty easy in the regular season. Well, if you're going to do that, then you can probably slough off these losses too if they don't mean anything right now.
Yeah, and people are making a lot, I think, in the Tampa market, not to the degree of Toronto. Well, like Tampa's on a winless skid, their first 5-game winless skid, by the way, since 2014. But like, let's not make this a bigger story than it is, especially for these two teams. They're just, treading right along. They know they're playing each other. I don't read too much in depthly into a loss against Vancouver with like 20 games remaining. As we mentioned last week, we're looking for those buzzwords. We're looking for stability, health. We're going to get to the Ryan O'Reilly conversation. But yeah, it was just a Cleveland steamer of an effort. Your boy Matt Murray did come back. It was great to see him on ice for once.
Yeah, it had been a while. It's funny. The first time he left was when we were watching that game live in Toronto. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but you crunch the numbers, and he was out for a long time. We touched on that quite a bit, and I stand by what I thought about it. They're just making sure he is ready. There is absolutely no reason to bring him back. So I think he probably took an extra week and a half just to, hey, let's really push this
2
thing
months,
and make sure there's nothing left. Why would you push this guy back to come in when there's still a little bit of twinge, or if he can tweak it a little bit here and there during this movement? Like, no, you're not. You're going to keep rehabbing, keep doing your stuff with the trainers and get healthy. And hopefully he is, and he looked pretty good.
For me in general, every day is a blessing on this earth. Every day is a blessing to see Matt Murray on the ice, and we'll leave it at that. Great to see him back, 20 saves. He was not the issue. They hung him out to dry. 2 breakaways, shorthanded in the third period. It just, you're not helping your goalie out. I thought he looked very confident, so that's good.
Yeah, he did look good. I mean, saved a couple of big ones. It could have been worse. There was 2-on-0s, breakaways. He saved a few of them. And I mean, what are you doing giving up that many shorthanded? They obviously didn't have their head in it. They're a little bit scattery right now. And again, I think they're going to be, well served to get home, get in their rink, and actually start gelling with that new group of players, because it's definitely difficult to do when you're bouncing around the road, hotel to hotel. You got to late ice time for this, and you only got this much time, and it's an optional one, so the whole team's not out there, and you're not going to work on stuff and get better as a team. You're just going to go see what you can do on those road trips, and unfortunately it's tough to do when you get 6 guys in there and playing all over, and Luke staying in Vancouver, and just kind of a scatterbrain. I think they're looking forward to getting home and getting settled down.
If it were up to you, what would you do with this power play? Because again, the numbers are deceiving. They're still one of the top power play units in the league, but they have these blips, these nonchalant efforts, the lack of urgency. Like, it's very similar to my beer league team on Sundays, man. Like, you just stroll in like a Sunday stroll, but this is the National League. You're 19 games away from the Stanley Cup playoffs. What would you do differently? We've talked about Riley. We've talked about Gustafsson. I think we've seen through 2 games Gustafsson what he is at the early part of his Maple Leafs career. He's an offensive-minded guy, and we get it. But they've, at this point, seemed reluctant to take Riley off the first power play unit. But what would you do to get these guys going here?
Yeah, I mean, all you can do, it's always special watching, or it's not special, it's different, working with the power plays. And I don't have a ton of experience doing it, obviously, but I know, how those guys operate and how they get together and talk, and they go out early and work on stuff, and they go into the video room by themselves and look things over. So they're hyper aware of everything that's going on. I just think when you get that many high skilled guys there, I mean, you look at Nylander, Tavares, Marner, Matthews, Riley, all out there at the same time. You're jostling around, and there's so much skill and so much hockey IQ out there that sometimes you're trying to figure out who's getting open and who's leading this thing and who are we looking for. And it's not just a simple like feed Ovi on the left side so he can knee down one time it like he's done 500 times. They're just finding themselves. And at the end of the day, you keep trying the guys, you keep working through what works. And I just think if there's a lot of options on the power play and it's not working and they're giving up shorthanded goals, it's pretty easy to say, hey, buddy, who's not paying attention to the defensive side of things, and you're the guy that's the reason that's holding up this power play from having success, then you're going to maybe go onto the second unit or off the power play in general, because we got lots of guys that can move in there, and Keefe's not scared to do that. He's just going to keep doing it and try to find something that clicks.
At the very least, I think it would jumble up the 2 units, man. Like, that's the one thing they really have stayed away from since the Matthews era got underway with Tavares and Marner, and they've stacked the first power play unit. Let's have a look at maybe using both units equally through a 2-minute power play. I mean, it's worth a try. You're trying everything else. Hell, they had Alex Kerfoot on the top line the other night, right? So, like, we're at a point where experimentation is prime. You know who you're taking on in the first round. It doesn't seem like Tampa's going to give you a run for your money for home ice. So try it out. But they've been reluctant to at this point. Meantime, it's not all good news. And this is powered by PointsBet Canada. This segment, by the way, our good friends at PointsBet Canada. Ryan O'Reilly gets banged up. And friendly fire was a story on Saturday, by the way. Like, it was a sigh of relief when Austin Matthews came back in that game, took a clapper off the inner knee. O'Reilly takes a Matthews shot off the hand. You see that picture right there. There's a splint on his finger, Rosie. That's not good.
No, it's not. I feel like he broke his finger. I mean, it's you take a clapper to a finger that's just hanging loose. He wasn't even watching. He was trying to get out of the way of that shot from Austin Matthews, and right off the loose finger, and right away he cringed. And I've had that happen before, and I've broken feet and hands and my face and everything else with pucks hitting it. Right away when you get dinged by something, whether it did damage or not. And there was nothing about his reaction that said it was a minor thing. And I'd be surprised if his finger's not broken. I just hope he doesn't need surgery and pins and whatnot, because that just brings the timeline further and further towards that playoffs, man. But as you see there, it's splinted. Something's wrong with it. So I think we'll find out here within the hour on what practice was like today and who was on the ice. I doubt he's going to get that thing in a glove, or they're going to feel the need to push him again with what's on the line going forward. And I'm expecting to see him out 3-4 weeks at least with a broken finger, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, if you're listening in podcast form right now, we are a live show, as you many of you know, at least know. So we are waiting for the news coming out of practice regarding Ryan O'Reilly. They've had a couple days to break it all down. I'm with you. I think there's no rush to get him back. Again, they're firmly in a playoff spot. Again, they know who they're going to play in the first round. I just think the race is on, and let's hope this is not a long-term thing where it's like you're cutting it close, where there's 2-3 games remaining and you have to throw O'Reilly in there to get some reps in for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just, it's so shitty. It's like sometimes it feels like the Leafs can't have nice things. He plays 8 games, has 5 points, looking pretty good, adds to that depth, and then it's taken away from you again,
Yeah, when you're following a team close and you're looking at it and their history and whatnot, the things that tend to pile up, you kind of wonder why us. But Riles has had a bad go this year. I think it was a broken foot that kept him out earlier, and it's not like those groin things or knees or something that could take a long time and constantly bug you again. I mean, you break a bone, you put it in a thing and let it heal up, and then you're pretty much done with it, which is a positive thing. But it's just rough. This team is trying to get their identity and trying to get something to click here with this new group of people. I think they made wicked trade deadline acquisitions, and they're trying to get the hell home and get this group working really well. And you'd hope that we just run into the playoffs with a head of steam. And that's obviously everyone's MO at this time of the year. And when guys are breaking shit and being on the IR and getting hurt, it doesn't help anybody. And it's one of the things about pro sports that is extremely frustrating, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's fallen victim to injuries, and Leafs are no stranger to it this year. They've weathered the storm very good, especially early on. Their whole decor seemed like they were gone. Their goalies were all down, and they were still banging off points, which was good to see. So I imagine they'll get through this just fine, but it's never good to see one of your big boys, especially when you just got him and you're trying to get him used to the lineup and find something to gel with. And now he's probably going to be on the shelf here for a while. But again, maybe good news is coming here next couple hours.
Just get there. Just get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. If you have to bubble wrap Austin Matthews, as mentioned, he can't be feeling great, but it was great to see him back on the ice. It's tough, and every team deals with it. Look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. Kucherov got dinged up over the weekend, so did Victor Hedman. And that's the unfortunate thing about playing a physical game. Doesn't matter if it's preseason, postseason, regular season. You can get hurt on any shift at any given time. So let's hope we see Ryan O'Reilly back sooner rather than later, because obviously that would be a big time loss for this team. But again, I would go with caution in this situation, and know that you need him for the long term, not the short term when it comes to Ryan O'Reilly. The deadline and the recap. So on Friday, the Leafs stood pat. We expected it. They picked up Radim Zahorna, who's like a minor leaguer at heart, made his debut over the weekend, by the way. But they had Achari, they had O'Reilly, Schenn, Gustafsson, McCabe, Lafferty. You look at what Tampa did, adding Tanner Jeannot. Boston gets Orlov, Hathaway, Tyler Bertuzzi. Have the Leafs done enough, in your opinion, Rosie, to get over that hump finally?
Yeah, I do. Look at it. What else do you want him to do? That's big time moves being made by Kyle Dubas. I think he was the talk of the whole trade deadline there for quite a while, and he was pulling triggers and making moves early. And I think for a lot of reasons, that's kind of why the actual deadline countdown was a little bit less eventful than it has been in the past, as guys knew what they wanted and they went out and got it. And there's no better example of that than this right now. I mean, the only real loss out of the roster is, Sandin and Engvall. I don't think anyone saw Sandin going out, but at the end of the day, for how much he was clicking and what an asset he was to the team, it was all right to move him out for what we got back. And Engvall, I think a lot of people wanted to see him go. And other than that, there's nothing off this actual roster. So, you can talk about the future and the picks and the prospects and whatever. That's not in their thought process right now. They're making a run. The time is now, and they've got a good team, and they're top 4 in the NHL all year long. They can make a run at this. So then they figure out what they need, figure out where they're weak, and they just pump all of those answers into the lineup, hoping that that's the saving grace here. So now there's nothing left to do to wait and see if they can get by that hump. They got to get past the first round. At some point, it just becomes a joke where it's like a curse, the amount of times they've had the team to do it and just haven't. So I don't think there's any better example than this year that they are better than the team they're going to play in the first round. It's not going to be easy, but they've got as good a team as they can put together. I just look at Dubas and you got to say bravo. What else could you ask for a general manager to do in this situation? He's made the moves. Team looks good. Time to win.
Hey, did you see Rasmus Sandin in his Capitals debut gets 3 appetizers in an 8-3 win for the Capitals? That's so Leafs, man. Like, it's just so funny. Of course he did. That's what I wrote on Twitter. Of course he did, right? I'm curious to see how Sandin works out with the Capitals, but we did say this last week. I don't mind Toronto maxing out on a guy who's like on their 5-6 pairing, right? They get a first, they get Gustafsson to address a bit of depth. Like, I had no issue with that.
Me neither. And Rasmus Sandin is going to go and have a solid career. And, there'll be times when he has a great year and we're thinking, oh, man, we had him. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's not a world beater or a deal breaker. And they did what they had to do to get what they needed. And I think their team looks better now than it did a month ago. So good on them. And now I'm just waiting for them to be able to put it together and try to get that group rolling and get some, get some big energy going where you can just start running through teams and gaining some speed and momentum coming into the playoffs here.
Okay, let's get to the PointsBet Canada wrap-up right now. We're doing things a bit differently here. No longer giving you bets because we don't want to ram that down your throat. And periodically through our shows, by the way, we'll give some looks that we like, by the way. But I want to start by saying, and this will be more of a focus on you, the listener, and the YouTube chat, and getting you guys integrated and us responding to what you have to say. Tim coming in hot today. We'll get to that. But first and foremost, I did put out on social media last week, Rosie, that I'm giving away 2 sets of tickets. They phrase it Canada's largest St. Patrick's Day party on March 18th. It's at Rebel in Toronto. I've been before. It's fucking outstanding, and it's like a day fest. You show up at like 11 o'clock. You can chill out all day. So we're giving away 2 sets of tickets. So this is pretty much how I'm going to do it. I might do once this week and once next week, and it'll drop randomly. So you got to continue to listen to this show or in podcast form as well. So it's pretty easy. The first person to tweet me the answer to this question right now, whether you're listening live, and again, if it would be great if you're in the Toronto area, because it is the Toronto area and you have to be 18 plus as well. The first person to answer this question and tweet me the answer will win a set of tickets. So 2 tickets to this party on March 18th at the Golden Muzzy is where you can find me on Twitter. The question is, what number did Jay Rosehill wear as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs? So the first person to tweet that answer to me will win these tickets right now. And again, I have another set to give away. So it's what number did Jay Rosehill wear for the Toronto Maple Leafs at the Golden Muzzy? Answer that question for me. Tweet it at me whenever you're listening to this. If it's in podcast form or if it's live right now on YouTube. The first person to tweet me that answer will win these sets or this set of tickets. So 2 tickets. Rosie, you know the answer, but it changed a bit in your career, your number, right? You don't give the answer right now, obviously, but.
I went down 1 number when I went to Philadelphia. Yeah. Someone who was there was already wearing it. So little changes here, but they're both greasy training camp numbers that
they are.
You don't wear unless you got some grease in you, boy.
It suited you. And we may have just talked about a player who wore one of your numbers in your career as well, right? So what number did Jay Rosehill wear as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs at the Golden Muzzy? And if you're the first person to tweet that answer to me, you win a pair of tickets to St. Patrick's Day party at Rebel here in Toronto coming up on March 18th. It's phenomenal, by the way. Make sure you're 18 plus as well. Getting to some YouTube comments, Tim writing in, maddening effort on Saturday, although he thinks Tampa is imploding. What's your read on Tampa, man? I don't read too much into this, especially a team that's gone to 3 straight Stanley Cups. I know they're benching superstars and shit like that, but they don't care. They're in the same conversation as Toronto. They know they're going to the Stanley Cup playoffs from game 1 of the season.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I haven't been watching them too closely, but I keep watching, keep my eye on the standings, saying if, is the latest loss, Edmonton or Vancouver, have they gained ground? And they're never gaining ground. So I know that things aren't going great there either. But I don't know. Is it a bad sign? Of course not. It's a good sign for us. The team that, that has been standing in a lot of people's way the last 3 years. I mean, you don't run your way to 3 Stanley Cup finals, winning 2 of them by being a half-assed team that doesn't know what you're doing. But you can't keep the same team together forever. You can't win together forever. I don't know what the signs are that they're losing some games, but they're losing some games and they're dropping some points in hell. If they're the team that we want to play, it's a hell of a lot better than them finding their stride and going on a 5-game heater the last 5. So let them do their thing. Honestly, I think we're more worried about us. And if we bring the best hockey that we can play, that we've shown, especially with this new group, I don't think that Tampa can beat us. And I just think they're a better team, but you have to show that. You have to bring your best stuff. Especially in the playoffs, it does not matter what you did. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your contract is. You just got to come together as a team and win 4 bloody games. And the Leafs have got to do it. And I think this is the year. There's no reason to think they shouldn't, but people have said that before and they have not been able to get the job done. So that's the huge question mark that's been there for more than a while now.
And it's unbelievable to think we're a little more than a month away, maybe like 6 weeks away from finding out the question we've been waiting all year to find out. Will they finally get over that hump? Will they finally beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round? It's very, very exciting. So we'll leave it at that for today's show. Again, a quiet week for the Leafs, and we just mentioned their crazy schedule the last little while. So they'll play tomorrow against New Jersey in New Jersey to wrap up their 5-game slate. And then not in action until Saturday night when they host the Edmonton Oilers, which obviously is worth the price of admission. So looking forward to that. Excellent job today, Rosie, and we'll reconvene tomorrow, okay?
You bet. We'll talk to you then.
There you have it. That's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Take care.